They called her Mapiker, the moon-faced. But behind the beauty that glowed beneath the torchlight of the Imperial Harem, another name waited to be born. A name that would one day terrify even the sultans she served, Kösem Sultan. She was just a Greek girl once, taken from the Aegean Islands, sold to the empire that called itself eternal. But fate had chosen her not for peace, but for power. Inside the harem, innocence was a fragile currency. Every smile could be a trap, every glance, a game of survival. And in that labyrinth of women, jewels, and poisoned whispers, Mahpaker learned the art of silence. When Sultan Ahmed I first saw her, she was no more than 16. He saw purity. The court saw a pawn. But the girl understood something they did not, that love, in a palace built on blood, was only another weapon. As thunder rolled over the Bosporus that night, the girl became a royal bride. The empire rejoiced. The harem fell silent, for every bride who entered the sultan's chamber knew the door that closed behind her might never open again. She awoke not to tenderness, but to protocol, servants waiting with silver basins. Her name stripped, her faith rewritten, her destiny sealed beneath silk sheets embroidered with the imperial crest. Soft choir builds under thunder. Kösem's transformation was complete. The concubine had become the Haseki Sultan, the sultan's favored consort, mother of his heirs, and the most envied woman in the empire. But envy in the harem was a slow-burning poison. In the marble gardens of Topkapi, rival women plotted behind silk fans. Each wanted what Kösem had, the sultan's gaze, the right to bear his son. And each knew the old law: the mother of the heir must survive. The rest are expendable, but Kösem was no ordinary consort. While others traded rumors, she listened. While others schemed for favor, she studied the men who ruled them, the viziers, the eunuchs, the guards whose loyalty could be bought with silver or saved with silence. Her intelligence grew into fear, and then into strategy. For she saw what few dared to see, that even the most powerful sultan was only a man, and men were mortal. Power, however, could live forever, if one learned how to marry it. Slow pan through candlelit corridor. As the empire bled through endless wars, the palace turned inward. Ahmed I, once youthful and passionate, grew paranoid, haunted by ghosts of betrayal and omens of his own death. Only one woman remained beside him, Kösem. When the plague came to Istanbul, death walked through the palace in silence. Sultanas prayed. Eunuchs burned herbs, but the disease cared for no crown. In the end, Ahmed I's reign ended as it began, in fear and fever. The empire mourned. Yet within hours, the harem came alive again. A hive of whispers, a theater of succession. Kösem, once a wife, now became a mother of princes, and thus the most dangerous woman alive. She had borne sons, her claim to survival. But each son was a thread in a tapestry of death, for Ottoman law decreed only one may rule. The others must not live to challenge the throne soft percussion builds. As the boy princes grew, the palace became a chessboard. Every smile hid intent. Every prayer disguised a plot. Kösem learned to move her pieces quietly, and to sacrifice none she could still save. When her eldest son, Murad IV, was crowned at just 11, the empire called her Valid Sultan, the Queen Mother, but the truth was darker. Kösem now ruled from behind the veil. The boy was a puppet, the empire her stage. The drums of power echoed through her veins. She signed decrees, she commanded armies through messengers. And for a brief, dangerous moment, a woman ruled the Ottoman Empire. But power, like poison, never stays still. The same whispers that once praised her now began to curse her name. Murad IV, growing older, saw in his mother not love, but control. Soft choir fades into silence. History's wheel had turned, and the woman who once married power now found herself its prisoner. For every crown she placed, she dug another grave. The empire had a new rhythm now, not of drums or marching feet, but of secrets whispered through corridors. Every decision passed through her hand. Every execution, every alliance, every betrayal carried her invisible signature. Outside, Europe trembled under wars of faith and kings. Inside, The Ottoman throne was ruled by a woman whose face the empire was forbidden to see. Her power was absolute, yet it came wrapped in silence. Slow strings rise beneath the wind, but power never sleeps alone. It attracts fear and breeds enemies. The janissaries, the court, even her own blood, each began to whisper her name, not as a ruler, but as a curse. Her son Murad IV was no longer the boy she once cradled. He grew into a tyrant shaped by paranoia, the mirror of the world she had built. He banned tobacco, alcohol, and even speech itself in the taverns of Istanbul. And still, he feared her. One night, he summoned her. The torches outside her chamber burned blue, the color of judgment. No mother was ever called to the Sultan's hall at that hour and returned unchanged. He spoke softly, almost tenderly. He asked her to sit beside him, to speak of old times, of the father she once loved. But in his eyes, she saw the same flicker she had seen in every man who held a sword behind his back. Soft percussion builds under tension. He accused her of betrayal, of ruling in his shadow, of poisoning the empire with her ambitions. And for a moment, even she believed him. For what mother rules an empire and still calls herself human? But Murad could not kill the woman who had given him life. He exiled her from court instead, her chambers stripped, her seal removed, her name whispered only with caution. For years she watched from the cold wings of the palace as her son ruled with iron and fear. Yet history, like a serpent, coils back upon itself. When Murad IV died, drunk, childless, and alone, the empire once again looked to her, a mother of the dead, and yet still the keeper of power. Soft choir returns, faint but rising. She installed her younger son, Ibrahim, upon the throne, a man broken by fear and indulgence. He was called Ibrahim, the Mad. And beneath his madness, Kösem ruled again, quietly, completely. Now, she was no longer the bride or the queen mother. She was something older, darker. The empire's heartbeat pulsed through her decisions, her spies, her letters sealed in wax. And with every choice she wove another knot in the web of her own fate. As years passed, the palace grew fat with corruption. Gold bought silence, blood bought favor. And somewhere between the whispers of angels and the laughter of courtiers, the soul of the empire began to rot. Kösem, once a savior, became the villain of her own legend. Mothers warned their daughters of her cunning. Men cursed her in secret and praised her in public. She ruled longer than any sultan's wife. But the price was eternal loneliness. Thunder rumbles in the distance. She dreamed often of the Aegean, the sea she once crossed as a girl, of the sky before the veil, before the crown, before her heart was gilded and buried alive. Sometimes she wondered if she had ever truly left that island, or if the harem had only been another kind of shore. But destiny does not forgive those who hold the empire too long. A new rival entered the palace, Turhan Hatice, Sultan, the young bride of her grandson, Mehmed IV. She was everything Kösem once had been, beautiful, calculating, and patient. Soft percussion deepens. At first, they smiled across the marble halls, exchanging gifts and blessings. But beneath every bow was a blade, and every prayer hid a plot. Only one woman could be the empire's mother, and both knew it. The court divided. Half served the old queen, half bent to the young, and the empire, bleeding from within, stood on the edge of another silent war. A war fought not with armies, but with glances, letters, and midnight footsteps. As she walked through the halls that night, Kösem felt the walls themselves listening, the same walls that had heard her vows, her commands, her secrets. Now they echoed back only one sound, the quiet approach of her own undoing. The night of her undoing began like any other, the air thick with incense and deceit. The palace slept under a moon that hid behind clouds, as if unwilling to watch what would follow. In her chambers, Kösem wrote one last letter to her grandson, the young Sultan Mehmed IV, a warning he would never read. Outside, footsteps gathered, soft at first, like servants delivering news, but the rhythm was too measured, too rehearsed. She had ordered countless deaths in her lifetime. Now she recognized the sound of her own. Soft percussion builds beneath a heartbeat. They came in the name of Turhan Hatice Sultan, the young queen who had learned too well from her predecessor. Power was a fire, and it demanded new wood to keep burning. She hid the letter beneath a tapestry, then turned to face them. Her veil was gone, her hair unbound. The moon-faced girl returned for one final breath of truth. There was no fear, only an exhausted grace, as if she had finally made peace with her own legend. They strangled her with the same silken cord once used on rival princes. No scream, no struggle, only the soft sound of silk tightening, a queen's final coronation. When dawn came, the palace was quiet. The empire had a new mother, young, ambitious, and already haunted. The old queen's body was hidden, buried in secret, but some said that on certain nights her perfume still drifted through the marble halls. Slow strings swell. For 40 years she had ruled, through love, through blood, through silence. She outlived her husband, her sons, her enemies, and finally, herself. No sultan ever held the empire so long, nor paid so high a price. Kösem Sultan, the woman who ruled an empire, and in doing so, lost the right to be free. History still whispers, if we dare to listen.